Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit differently. So I'm actually going to try my hand at a reading vlog, but it's going to be a dedicated reading vlog to one specific book because I've been waiting since this book was announced and I am so excited to read it, and it is probably the book that I've been waiting for this entire year, and I'm so nervous to read it because the longer I've been waiting to read it, the more bad reviews I've seen. So on one side that's kind of good because my expectations have been lowered, so that might actually help if it is not like fantastic. But on the other hand, I'm like really disappointed and kind of absolutely terrified to read it. So the book that I'm going to be doing the reading vlog on is Book of Night by Holly Black. I am absolutely obsessed with Holly Black. I've read so many of her books. They're actually on the shelf right above this one. I've read the Folk of the Air trilogy, obviously, and then I've read Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside, which I really liked. I know they have like mixed reviews because they're a lot different than Folk of the Air. And then I've also read Darkest Part of the Forest, which I loved again, and I'm currently waiting to read The Coldest Girl in Cold Town because I just got the Fairy Loot edition, so I'm just gonna wait to read it. I have a copy, but I don't like the cover of it, so I'm just gonna wait till I read the Fairy Loot edition when it comes. Anyway, I was so excited about Book of Night being announced, and I was really curious what it was gonna be like because it's gonna be her first adult book, and to me she has a lot of different writing styles. So the first books by Holly Black that I read were Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside, and when I read Folk of the Air, completely different. I mean, completely different writing style. And then when I read Darkest Part of the Forest, also completely different than those books too. I would say that Folk of the Air is much lighter and more your generic young adult books, while the other ones take a much more grittier, almost urban fantasy side to young adult, and kind of almost read a little bit like adult books to me personally. So I'm really curious if people don't like Book of Night because they're dark, grittier adult books, kind of more like Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside. So I'm kind of curious to read it and see if that's why people aren't liking them. I'm kind of hoping that's the reason people don't like them, because that means I'll like them because I loved those books. But anyway, so that's kind of my expectations going in, is I don't expect it to be anything like Folk of the Air, and I definitely think people aren't gonna like it because of that. People expect a really good romance out of Holly Black now because of those books, and I'm thinking that maybe that's one of the issues people don't like it, because I have heard it's grittier and darker than people were expecting. Okay, so before we get into which book I picked, because I actually have I have three copies of the book from different places because I could not help myself, and I always like to wait till I get all the books and then pick which one like I really like the best, just in case I end up getting rid of other copies. Like if I don't like this book, I might get rid of the other copies. And yeah, before we start that, I forgot, I cut all my hair off. I had like 12 inches of hair that I cut off. I was sick of it. Wedding season is over for me. I had 2 weddings that I went to, so I was like, you know what, let's do something different and just cut all my hair off, and I like it so much better. I don't take like 7 years in the shower anymore. And I can actually brush my hair. So that's out of the way. Let's get into 3 copies of the books that I had. So it took me this long to read it because I was waiting for my final copy to arrive from OwlCrate. OwlCrate had some issues with their copies, so they did not come as quickly as they thought they would. So I'm going to show all 3 copies that I have. If you don't want any spoilers, just jump ahead in the video. I'll mark when the reading vlog starts. I think I'm going to update every 50 pages, but I'm unsure, so I'll say that like at the beginning of the actual reading vlog portion. And I'm still not sure how I'm gonna do like the reading vlog clips. It might be like found footage style where it's like shaky camera and I'm just like holding it. I don't know, I haven't decided yet because I haven't done it, so we'll see kind of what works best for me. So yeah, anyway, let's get into the books. So first up, we're gonna go with my least favorite, and normally they're my favorite books, but I really didn't like their copy of it because to me it's very similar to what's in store already, and I actually don't have a copy of just the regular book. I don't have a special edition Barnes & Noble copy, and I don't have an edition of just the regular book. So first one is Fairy Loot. It is just an all black with a gold lettering, and it's just kind of boring. It's fine, and it's black sprayed edges. It's okay. It's boring. If this was the only copy I had, I'd be like, okay, this is pretty cool, but the other two copies are so much better that this one just doesn't do anything for me. And I really don't even like the art on the inside. There's art on the inside cover, and I'm not even a fan of how the art looks, so The next two are pretty much tied for my favorite. I ended up asking my husband which one he liked better, so he actually ended up picking which one that I'm going to read, that I'm going to start, because I could not decide. I like both of them equally. So the runner-up is the Illumicrate copy. I love this edition. When I saw it, I was like, yes, this is beautiful, this is perfect. It's so different than the original cover, and it feels like you're really getting like a special edition when you buy this. So I was very happy with this, very impressed. Absolutely love this copy. And it's also, I think, some black sprayed edges. I think all the copies I have are black sprayed edges. So the winner was the Owlcrate edition, so I'm so glad I waited for it, and it is stunning. I love it so much. I feel like Owlcrate does pretty good jobs with their special editions. I haven't had one in a while, so I was really excited when this came, and it's beautiful. So the winner is the Owlcrate edition, and it's so different. It's so beautiful. The silver foiling, and you can see there's like clouds and fog and mist that runs up it, and it's different on the back as well. So this edition is just perfect. It's everything that I wanted for this book, and I hope like it's giving like the right vibes of the book. So I am very excited. This is the edition that I'm going to read, and I'm probably going to start reading rather soon. It's pretty early in the day, so I'm hoping that I can maybe finish this like in one day, or today into tomorrow. It's 304 pages, so if it's good, that's easy to finish in a day. If it's not good, this could be a long reading vlog, but I will update you guys at about 50 pages, and we can talk about my initial thoughts about it. So I will see you guys in a second. Hey guys, I decided to do updates every about 50 pages. It's a pretty short book, but already 50 pages in, and I don't know if I would have like continued reading this if I wasn't doing a dedicated vlog, but we're in it, so we're just gonna continue. And again, it's Holly Black, so I mean, I don't want to DNF it anyway because it's her, but oh my gosh. I think I am on page 66, so a little past the 50 page mark, but I am not enjoying it. I actually thought I was spot on when saying that I was going to be more like Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside, but it is not. It is definitely way different than anything that she's written before, and I don't know if she did it on purpose because it's supposed to be like an adult book, but it's nasty. It's like really gritty, and I don't really like the main character. She doesn't even really seem to have a personality, and then she has like a boyfriend already, and he doesn't really have a personality. No one really has a personality in this book. It's just kind of telling you like what they're doing. So it's so boring. It's so boring. And to be honest, I don't really know what's happening half the time because they've already introduced like so many characters that don't really actually seem that important, and all they're saying is she's trying to find a book but not really trying to find it. She's undecided if she's trying to find a book. So I don't know. It's very strange. I do like the magic in it, but it's still not explained very well. All it says is like it's shadow magic, and that's really it. Like, you can change your shadows. There's 4 different types of shadow magicians, but that's it. So it's very strange. It's very strange. I'm really not enjoying it so far. I'm hoping it gets better. I'm hoping there's like an actual romance, which is something that Holly Black is kind of known for. So yeah, I'm gonna continue reading a little bit later today. I'm kind of taking a break from it because it's just not my cup of tea. So I'm gonna read something else to make sure I don't get into a reading slump. So I'm gonna read something else and pick it up later. So I will update you guys when I get to probably about page 100, maybe 110. So we'll see. So this is my 50-page update. I am at page 115. I think I jumped into saying I didn't like it a little too early. It's still okay. So the book is, I'm gonna try and not give spoilers because I know a lot of people still haven't read this yet because it is still relatively new. But the book is written kind of how pretty much every book is written now, with current day stuff happening, and then there's whole chapters of like her past life and explaining why she's the way she is, because she's definitely a morally gray character, kind of really unlikable. She is like a pickpocket, a previous criminal. She's trying to clean up her act. She's got a boyfriend. She lives with her sister. So the chapters going through her past are explaining how she got where she is, why she got into like life of crime, how she got out of it, stuff like that. The current chapters are kind of her, I'm trying not to give spoilers because there's a lot of spoilers, but it's basically about her boyfriend and about her sister and what she's doing now. And so the first, I think I said, I stopped at page 66 the first time. It was just so boring. The chapters that take place in the past are just, they're not very entertaining to read. Like, yeah, I'm glad we're learning about her past, but I don't really care that much. I kind of just wish we're in the present because I was also struggling with the present stuff. But luckily, right after that update, I continued reading, and it did start like sparking some interest, at least in the current day stuff. I'm still not interested in the past chapters at all. So I hope those get more interesting if they're going to continue, because they're just very dull right now. But there has been like a reveal. I wish I cared a little bit more, because then it would have been like a really good reveal. But I still don't care enough about the main character. At least I'm starting to care a little bit more about the boyfriend. The boyfriend's getting like more personality, which I like. The sister has a bit of a personality. I say the person with the least amount of personality is like our main character. She almost seems like a kind of like almost like a Twilight thing, where the main character is just like empty and you kind of are supposed to put yourself in. I don't know. There's just not enough personality in there for me. Like, I want to either like her or not like her. And she's just so middle of the road. And I don't know if it's because the author is trying to get across that she's trying to clean up her life. So she's trying to like act really a specific way. So she's very bland as a character. But I really need the blandness to stop so I care more, because I'm starting to like the boyfriend. The boyfriend's starting to get entertaining. He's starting to like show a little intrigue and mysteriousness. So I need a little more from the main character if I'm going to end up liking this. I am enjoying it more though. What did I say I was at? 115. Yeah, it is getting a little better. It's getting a little better. It's definitely still gritty and dark, but I kind of was able to rearrange my thought process, and I kind of am like, okay, I really loved Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which was very dark, very gritty compared to her Shadow and Bone series. So I was like, okay, if I can like that and kind of adjust my expectations for that author for her new book, I should be able to adjust my expectations for this author as well. So I'm trying to like take it as a Ninth House kind of thing, and hopefully that adjust. But I will say the book is short. Yeah, it's like 300 pages, and it is, unlike Ninth House. Ninth House is going to be a series and was long. It was a long book. This looks like a standalone, so I'm curious what's gonna happen in the next 200 pages, because it's kind of like they've already introduced like a lot of plot. Like there's like conspiracy theories and a lot of magic going on. There's a lot of characters, like a lot of characters. So I'm really curious how she's going to incorporate everything together in a single 300-page book. That is my main concern, is that there's going to be a lot of loose ends, or we're not going to get enough character development that this clearly needs. We need a lot more personality and character development. So I am going to end this portion here and continue reading. I'm trying to finish the whole book today because I'm actually kind of curious what's going to happen, and I don't want to drag this book out if I don't like it either, because that'll just make me more sad and more resentful for this author. But I am enjoying it for the most part. I hope there's less past chapters. I hope there was only a few to explain what's going on, and that we catch up to the present, and then it's just the present. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. But I'll give you guys an update in another 50 to 100 pages. It kind of depends if anything happens, because there really wasn't too much that happened in the last 50 pages, but I felt compelled to give an update because I said I would. But we'll see. So at 160 to 210 pages, I'll be back. Okay. I said I would be back in 50 to 100 pages, and I was a big fat liar. So I ended up just finishing the book because I think in the last update, I was thinking that maybe I jumped the gun a little bit, that I was liking it a little bit better. Yeah. Pretty much right after that, until the end, like the last 30 pages, I was back to absolutely hating this book. It was, oh my god, it was so boring. And then the end happened, and I'm like confused. So let's just talk about this book as a whole now, because I have never been so confused reading a book. Like, I'm confused about the plot, I'm confused about my own feelings, I'm confused kind of what she was thinking when she was writing this book. So we're just gonna talk about it as a whole now. This is gonna turn into almost like a review. This is just such a hard book to get through. What helped me get through it actually were reading sprints. I can't remember the name. I'll link down below the person that was watching the reading sprints. But she was having like a 24-hour reading sprint-a-thon thing, and they were super helpful to get me through them. So thank you to her and the guest she had on her show. So let's talk about Book of Night. Was it what I expected? No. Am I disappointed? Yes. Am I highly confused? Yes. Will I read another book if there's another book? Yes. My understanding was this was a standalone. I'm not so sure that is the case. In my opinion, this seems more like a Ninth House situation, because if I remember correctly, when I read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, we thought it was going to be a standalone, and then it left off on a cliffhanger, and shortly after there was rumors that she was going to be writing a second book sometime in the future, and it'll be coming out this year or early next year. That seems kind of like the situation with this. The end of the book is also one of the reasons I'm confused, because it kind of, when I read the end of the book, it made me feel like this was, all of it was lead up to a second book. It almost feels like a prequel to an actual series, because something very important happens at the end, and it's almost like this was an appetizer, and the real series is going to be about these two characters hunting shadows. So, which I think sounds way cooler. Like each book be a different like hunt, or what they call blights. Shadows that are separate from their person are called blights. That to me sounds really, really cool. But there's still no information if there is going to be a series or what's going on with this, because you also could read the end and see it as you decide like what happens, because it's not like a super big cliffhanger. Like it's not like Ninth House. Oh my gosh, Ninth House had the biggest cliffhanger and you're like, wait, this is a standalone? What? This one, there's a little bit of closure. Like you could leave this alone and be like, you guys decide what happens after the book ends. And I in that case, it would be like a 1 to 2 star book. If it's a series and is going to continue, it's a 3. And we'll get into why I gave it this rating. So my main issue with this book is that the main character had absolutely no personality. It was just bad. Like, and that makes a book very boring when there's nothing else going on. And her sister was a brat. Like, her sister's whole point of the book is that she is utterly useless, and our main character has to take care of her. Charlie has to take care of Posey. And so Charlie, but she has no personality, and that's who we're following the whole story. So normally Holly Black has a really, really good romance in her books that takes center stage, and it helps give personality to the characters. The romance was definitely not very important in this book, and I think that also hurt my reading of it, because I think the reason a lot of people are not liking it is because when you read a Holly Black book, you expect a really good romance, and this just, I felt it, but I needed more out of it. It was a very, very, very small fraction of the book, and which is sad because my favorite parts were the parts with the romance, or with that character that they paired Charlie with. And he turned out to be a really fun character. I really liked the twist at the end. I saw part of it coming, but I still liked it. I liked the twist. I actually really liked the ending, and Charlie got a personality at the end. So she waited until the last like 40 pages to give Charlie a personality, to give her like that romance, to give her sister more personality. I mean, if you had made the rest of the book like the last 40 pages, it would have been a great book. But she made, I don't know what she was really thinking with this book. Again, it feels like a book you would write after you've already written the real series and said, oh, this is the origin story of this pair. So it's just, I don't know, this book is so confusing. There's too many characters, there's too many like conspiracy theory stuff going on. It needed to be simplified a little bit, because I was looking through the Goodreads comments after I finished it, and one of the comments was people were confused while reading it. Because it was also boring and you have so many characters, you like go out of focus, and when you come back, you're like, oh, who the heck is this character now? What's the importance of this character? So she had some really interesting characters, but because the book was so short and you have no backstory of these people, they're not as interesting as they could be. So like there was one character that literally took me to the end of the book to understand, and it's the person called like the Hierophant, and it's a thief who, if they're caught stealing people's soul or stealing people's shadows and stealing stuff from people, if they're charged with the crime, they'll have a blight, which is a strong shadow that has been separated from a person, that basically is its own separate entity, will get stitched onto the person. And the Hierophant is so powerful because it's like this really, really old powerful blight, and they're getting stitched on, and they basically take over the human. I did not understand that for the entire book. Maybe that's just me, but this character is like kind of important. They're like doing stuff behind the scenes, and I'm sitting there going, who the heck is this? Like, I don't understand who this is until the very, very, very end when everything comes together. They explain a little better who he is. I'm like, this would have been nice to know 200 pages ago when they're talking about him. Like, we already know who he is because all the characters know who he is, but no one explained it to the reader. So you're sitting there going, what? And they're talking about this like cabal of people who run like the people who do shadow stuff, and I'm like, who is it? And then you meet all the people at the cabal at the end, so you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. But like I understand everything that happened in the book now, but I feel like I need to reread the book to really understand the book. I'm curious if I reread the book. Not now, because I couldn't do that again. Maybe if I reread the book in like a couple months, maybe I'll like it better because I didn't understand what was going on in the first read. So, but yeah, so I think the things that she could have done better. Number one, this shouldn't have been the first book. Okay, this is going to be, I'm going to put a little thing down below. This is going to be spoilers. I'm going to be talking about spoilers a little bit. I was trying to keep this spoiler free, but it's really hard to talk about without talking about the spoilers in this book because it's one of the major plot points. Vince is actually a blight, like the strongest blight in existence. He is, you can pretty much guess that if you've read even half the book, that Vince, like, he's a shadow, he's a blight, that got separated when the actual grandson of the bad guy died. So the actual person died. This is Red. If you've read the book, Red is Vince's shadow, but Vince is actually Red. So anyway, at the end, to save Vince from getting attached to somebody else, Charlie has the cabal attach Vince to herself. And the book ends with them driving off, and they're now the Hierophant. They're now the ones killing blights, and he doesn't remember her. So they're together or whatever, and he doesn't remember her. So that's why it feels like there should be another book / this is where the series actually begins, because now you can begin the first book with Charlie attached to this super powerful blight. They're fighting for control. They're fighting blights. They're doing it. That would be such a good series. And then this is basically like the prequel. Like, how did Vince get attached to her? And where she came from, her backstory. Because there was so much backstory on Charlie. So much backstory that wasn't necessary. Like, every third chapter was the past, and it was just so unnecessary how much detail they went into. Like, I get she's a thief, and I get something bad happened to her. You don't need to go over everything that happened in her past that made her hate this bad guy. Like, it was so detailed and so unnecessary. Oh my gosh. And so, like I said, the end of the book was really good. Like, anytime Vince was in the story after the halfway point, because he was boring at the beginning, but there's a point that happens that he becomes very interesting, and that's when I came on and started talking to you guys. I was like, oh, this is actually like getting really good. He disappears for the rest of the book until the last 40 pages, and he's like the interesting part of the book. Like, him and Charlie's dynamic together is interesting once that thing happens. So for me, removing him from the story and having Charlie try and find him and figure out what's going on was a mistake. Unless this is a prequel, which is all about Charlie. That makes sense to me. So my conspiracy theory, because I just had to read about a bunch in the Book of Night, is that this is a prequel to an actual series. The real series is going to be Charlie and Vince / Red, whatever she decides to name him. They're going to be going around like Supernatural, the TV show, killing blights, figuring out mysteries. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. That's what I hope is going to happen. So that's how I feel. I feel like this, okay, I guess we're going to stop spoilers right here. I feel like this is a prequel to an actual series. That's kind of how it read, and that's why I feel like a lot of people don't like it, is because there's so much backstory, it bogs you down, and the only reason you'd care about this much backstory is if you already cared about the character, and you don't. So there needs to be a whole series where I said it should start. So that's my reading vlog off the rails. If you couldn't tell, the light's different because I had to sleep on this. I finished it really quickly last night with those reading sprints and went to sleep because I was so confused when I finished this, like how I felt about it. So if, like I said, 3 stars if it's a series, because then I understand where this book was, what this book was trying to do, and I'll like it better because we get more closure with the characters I was talking about in the spoilers. And 2 stars if it's not, because it doesn't make sense to me as a book on its own. There's too much backstory, too much going on for a single book. So yeah, and my other conspiracy theory is the same with Ninth House, is that they are labeling it as a standalone, or not like making a statement about it, because they're waiting to see how people like it. And if enough people like it and think it did well, they'll have a second book. Kind of, that's how it felt like with Ninth House. Ninth House felt like they were like, okay, this is her adult debut, her young adult books did really well, let's put this one out here and it can stand on its own, but we'll see what people think, and if people like it, we'll announce a second book. Because I felt like a while before she said, oh yeah, like there is gonna be a second book. So I'm curious if that's gonna be the case as well as this one. So we're gonna have to wait another like 5 years for a second Book of Night book to come out. Because I don't know what else she's working on. I haven't looked up her other projects, but I knew at the time Leigh Bardugo was working on what is it, King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. So she had other projects that she had been working on besides Ninth House. I don't know what Holly Black's working on, so we could get like an announcement if there's a second book. Basically, I'm obsessed with the idea that there's going to be a whole series behind this that we will like much better. So that is my very terrible reading vlog, because I lost my mind while reading this. But I'm going to leave everything in because those are my honest opinions as I was reading it. So this is going to be my first attempt at a reading vlog. I'm sure they'll maybe get better after this. And that's basically my review of this book as well. So I'll label this somewhere between book review and dedicated mess of a reading vlog. So comment, like, subscribe. Tell me what you guys thought about this book. I know a lot of you guys have read it, so I really want to know what you guys thought about this. Be wary of spoilers at the end. You can put spoilers, just mark it clearly that spoilers, and then write it below it, so people don't get spoiled in the comments. But I am very curious what you guys think, if you think there's going to be a series. So let me know if you can chat about that, because I'm very excited about the idea of a series, not this as a standalone. So I will see you guys in the next video.